Welcome to Smarter Strategic Thinking, where we invite industry leaders into our podcast to discuss everyday IT infrastructure solutions that businesses face on a daily basis. My name's Ray Quattramini. I have 41 years experience selling IT infrastructure solutions from tape to disc to optical across the globe. If you like us, give us a thumbs up or give us a thumbs down, depends how you are. If you want to follow us, we're going to have quite a lot in these series, and thank you for joining. Well, today we have Andy from Seagate. Welcome, Andy, to our
Thank you.
podcast series.
Good to be here.
How did you actually get involved in IT to start?
Well, actually, my career started out in semiconductors, and I worked for a local company in Harlow, where I'm from, which became latterly Arrow Electronics. And then from Arrow I went to Avnet. Avnet took me into living in Paris and Germany, which is a great experience for 5 years. And then when I came back to get married, that was my first entree into the world of IT, and I was in the mobile IT comms, those mobile handheld computers
Yeah.
and printers. So if Amazon comes to your door, you sign the screen.
Yeah.
I worked for that business, which is really interesting, actually, kind of using data in more meaningful ways, and it kind of how you talk about pricing to them is more an investment to lower their overall costs.
Right.
Try and get them away from the price of the goods, right? And then that led into working for Seagate, which, to be honest with you, was a bit of a stopgap. I just needed a job. And I thought, well, I'll give it 3 years, and I've been here for 13 years now. And the reason is because I love working there. The technology really excites me. I'm a bit of a hard drive geek. I got in trouble one year for actually buying my wife a hard drive for her birthday. That's an argument that still comes around every year. She said she wanted storage, and what she meant was a handbag. Well, there we go. I just fell into it, really.
Excellent.
But I'm still here and still really loving being at the, seeing our customers, what they're doing, and really understanding how our product's being used is endlessly fascinating for me. I feel like a child in a sweet shop sometimes.
I fully comply with that. What's your role in Seagate? What do you do, and how could you help your partners like us?
Sure. Well, I'm now responsible for what we call Seagate Systems, which is our storage enclosures, as well as the live portfolio, which consists of data storage in the cloud, so live cloud, and also data movement as a service, which is our live mobile. So think about Seagate. We're well known, of course, for our range of hard drives, but people don't know that actually we have a whole data flow from the end point where data gets created for the first time, to the edge where the first computation happens, to the first storage, which is often local, maybe a small data center. Then you go to the core, which is our cloud service. And all along that, Seagate has something to offer, as well as the backhaul. If there's a cyber security attack, for example, and your recovery point objective means you want to get that data back from the cloud quickly, and you don't want to use potentially infected cables, you could use live mobile again to bring it back into your data center. So you have a real circularity in the data flow, and we think Seagate has a good solution at each step.
We all know, and we're experiencing huge data growth. What markets and industries are you particularly focused on with your systems?
Across the world, it's diverse and huge. I'll talk about the UK because that's where I operate. We focus on 4 key areas. One is what we call M&E, media and entertainment, which really is the post-production in Soho, NoHo, as they call it, north of Oxford Street.
Yes.
And Cardiff and Manchester. And that's post-production and broadcasters mainly. Then we move into the energy research. So that's, people looking for energy sources and also looking at the natural sciences as well. Then we've got government and research and healthcare. And then finally, pharmaceutical research as well. And so all along those 4 key verticals, the output of those customers is some kind of data product.
Yeah.
And it's a data research report, it's a TV program, but essentially it's data.
From the people that we talk to, what types of systems do you sell? How do they start? Where do they scale from, and what interfaces do you provide, and what can you do with them?
Yeah, so we've built an ecosystem, if you will, of enclosures, right? It consists of a 2U24, 2U12, 5U84, and 4U106. Okay, By changing the modules at the back, they can all be defined as a JBOD or a RAID, or with the addition of a different controller, it can also be a blade server. So very, very sort of integrated systems. They all have full redundancy, so the high availability systems. But they are just data storage. There's no software on. There's just block level storage, and it's our partners like yourself that have to add the magic, that the actual doing part of the system. On top of that, we've got the live mobile and the live cloud.
Yes. And some of your systems you can mix, obviously, different drive types, can't you?
You can, yeah, we can. So to be very flexible, we have auto tiering, as well as thin provisioning and all the other usual things that you'd expect. And what auto tiering does is, because the systems are built around our own ASIC, we can auto tier very, very quickly with very little power problems. You know, a lot of other auto tiering systems using other types of controller, they might only do it every 24 hours or every couple of hours, because the power draw, it goes up enormously during the auto tier function. Ours is instantaneous. When the data goes hot, it's stored in SSD straight away, and it's configured to store in the SSD until it's full up. Then it starts using the drives, and then what it does, it picks, if something needs to be promoted from the drive, it picks the least used object in the SSD and swaps it immediately.
And that's all within your Exos and Core Vault systems, so you can mix and match drive types. Is that right?
In Core Vault, which is our smart JBOD, which I'll come on to in a minute, that's just a SAS JBOD.
Right.
So there's no auto tiering. The auto tiering is in our hybrid arrays.
Right, which are the Exos.
The Exos X range.
From an interface perspective, what interfaces do you actually provide?
SAS, Fibre Channel, and iSCSI, and they're available across all the whole range, apart from the JBOD, which also are all SAS.
So regarding the interfaces, you provide 10 and 25 gig iSCSI.
That's correct.
Via SFP.
Yeah.
You also provide 16 and 32 gig fibre, again via SFP.
You've got it.
And you've got 12 gig SAS.
Yeah, it sounds like you've done our training, Ray.
Yeah, a little bit.
Online, on our partner portal.
Regarding the controllers in the back end, they are active.
Yes.
And you've also got on the side, but you also have very high capacity drives.
We do.
Do you want to talk about RAID rebuild and how Seagate overcomes that issue?
Seagate's just launched a 30 terabyte drive, in the channel. So it's been around in the cloud for quite some time, but now it's in the channel, and it's in every distributor we've got in the UK. In SATA only, so actually we can't yet deploy it in our systems, right? So that's coming, but it's just not there yet. Now, the challenge around such high capacity drives, and by the way, we're going to move very quickly up the curve. We've got 40 terabytes in the field already being tested. We've got a route to 130 terabytes and beyond, right? So, but the challenge around that is what you do if you want to do RAID protection, because RAID rebuild times are long and not going to get any shorter by having a high capacity drive. And there are many, many factors which dictate how long a RAID rebuild is, right? How much time it takes. But on average, and it's a really rough average, it's about 3 hours per terabyte, right? Because you've got to build, verify, and verify again. So on a 30 terabyte, that's a long time out of service. And the other problem is, as we all know, in a RAID rebuild, often adjacent drives will also go wrong because they're taking the strain. So what Seagate's done is said, right, to prepare for the deployment of high-capacity drives, what technologies are there out there which can help us protect the data? And the answer was erasure coding. And so we've got a technology that's available across our whole range of arrays. And what it does, it identifies when a drive is showing signs of stress. It may be, error detection gets above certain levels. And it will take that drive out of service. It will look at the platter involved, platter level, offload the data, try to reformat it, and when it's done that, it will then reload the data, rebalance it, and keep it going. If it can't reformat the data because it's a proper media error, so that's a damaged disk, then what it does, it just turns off that single platter. So in a stack of 10 platters within a hard drive, 9 are still available, and we just turn off 1. Now, you may say, yeah, but that means I've got less data. Well, that's true, but we keep two drives worth of data of capacity available across the array of drives. So we can always pull in empty space and use it, so the user doesn't see that they've lost anything. And what it means is, of course, is that the drive is still in service, whereas in a RAID, it'd be taken out of service and thrown away. So e-waste gets dramatically decreased. Now, the magic of this is that it's done automatically within the enclosure, and there's no north-south data traffic between the disks and the controller. For the customer, they can do one of two things. They can halve their RAM and CPU count, because they're not controlling the RAID rebuild anymore, so they save lots of money there. Or they can just buy the same as they're going to buy anyway, but deploy more for managing applications.
Yep.
So it's a really good system, and we've deployed that across our array. We've also deployed it in our JBOD. We have a thing called a Core Vault, which is a 584 or a 4U106 SAS connector, as you'd imagine the JBOD being. And again, that is a JBOD price, but still has that rebuild technology.
Wow.
So it's a really advanced JBOD and unique to Seagate.
One of the options you provide within an extra cost is software layer that we can load on the Exos.
Yeah.
As well as auto-tiering, what other functionality can you provide?
Well, as my aid memoir, I call it SAR, which is snapshots, auto-tiering and replication. And it's available at point of purchase by specifying the license, and it gets deployed when we build it for you.
Regarding the hard disk, you mentioned that the capacities are growing.
Yeah.
What security features and functionalities do you have built in that protects customers' investment over long term?
We do offer AES 256 encryption across the range, but most people actually don't use it on drives. They use it at the system level, funnily enough. And our systems, again, are AES 256 encrypted. As an option, you turn it on when you deploy it. So, but really, it's more than just the standards, because I always think that if you comply to a standard, you've ticked a few boxes and you become complacent. But what Seagate is doing is saying, right, all across our supply chain of 2,500 vendors, we are insisting that they know where all their components come from and what's on them. And we go and have proper quality control checks all the way down the line, and build it from the ground up to be secure and robust. And features like, we only allow certain MAC addresses to access the data and this sort of thing. All that's built into the software layer, so people on setup can control exactly what happens.
Your systems, they're obviously very well recognised, but what do you do as a manufacturer to prevent, for example, cooling? How do you solve that problem, and vibration, and what is it you do as a manufacturer that sets you apart?
We're one of the most, if not the most, vertically integrated company in storage today, right? We literally dig stuff out of the ground, build it into our hard drives over the course of 14 months, put those hard drives into systems that we've designed and built, and put those into a cloud environment. We engineer alongside our customers so that we are very, very intimate with the way hard drives are being used, data is being stored, accessed and secured, and we put all that expertise into our systems. So from every component that we use, every box that we have, we manage airflow, vibration, security. It's all built in from the ground up.
Seagate have obviously been the world's largest manufacturer of hard disks for many years. Yeah. You also make a range of subsystems. Yeah. And you've also launched Seagate Live Cloud. Yeah. Do you want to explain a little bit about that for our viewers?
Our thesis is that data is growing exponentially, right? And we are looking for new ways to be valuable to our customers. And cloud is the obvious target. There's a lot of cloud providers out there. And we said, okay, well, we are a storage company at heart. We're going to go into the cloud and make it very, very simple. And it's part of the building blocks from drives to systems and now to cloud. So we launched Live Cloud about 5 years ago in the UK. We're based in the data centers in Slough, right, or as the Americans call it, London, right? And what that means for the customer, of course, is data sovereignty is secure. The customer decides which data center that we have that they store it on. So if they're UK based, they have a UK data center, and that's their choice. We don't ever move it. But the important thing is, one of the barriers of cloud and why we're seeing some repatriation is because the hidden costs. You get the annual fee or the monthly fee per terabyte, but then you try and read it or put more data on it. You ingress and egress fees. Well, that's part of our price. We don't charge for that. And also, if you're running apps and using the data, the API call charges, we get that as well. So what we end up with is a very transparent, single, low-cost monthly fee per terabyte. We have 2 different tiers of service. One is standard tier. You can, with no additional limitations, you can read, you can write, access your data all the time. But if your data goes cold, you can use our infrequent access tier, so-called active archive tier, which halves the cost of the per terabyte. Again, no ingress or any ingress. The limitation is that we ask you to keep your objects on our storage for 6 months. You can take it off, but we're going to charge you anyway.
That's interesting. I was talking to someone yesterday about the API calls.
Yeah.
So this talks about Veeam.
Yeah.
I know Veeam is a backup product. And a lot of customers store Veeam on immutable storage on AWS.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realise, and probably not a lot of vendors realise and customers realise, is for every one of those API immutable calls, you're charged by AWS.
You're charged by AWS, yeah.
And there was a customer that I was speaking to yesterday. They were backing up like 300 terabytes, and that cost, that just API immutable part of a call was £6,000 to £7,000 a month.
Yeah, it's believable, absolutely believable. Yeah.
That's not an egress charge.
No.
That's not an ingress charge. That's just a flat API call charge.
Right, and the challenge, of course, is that how could you predict that and forecast that? As a finance manager, what you want is transparency and predictability, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm old school. If someone shares a document with me, I download it. So now there's 2 copies. So there's already an egress fee, and my colleague will do the same. And men of a certain age, we all download, right? That's what we do, because we want the presentation to be available when I'm in a studio somewhere. So how do you predict that cost? And the answer is you can't. And that's where these lower cost vendors like Seagate become much more attractive. And of course, Seagate is backed up with 45 years of existence. We're a bricks and mortar manufacturing company. We're not going to go anywhere. And there are a lot of brands out there which are for sale, let's face it, right? They're venture capital funded. And what we'd argue is that customers need to start looking at how they rank their data.
And the granularity.
Yeah.
You know, why are we keeping it here? Why don't we move it there? Why don't we do this?
Exactly. And, our biggest customers are Google, Azure, and those large cloud providers. And they provide really good service in terms of compute and render and GPU farms and this sort of thing, which you use on demand. It's very elastic, and that's the attraction of cloud services. But the bit that you always pay for is the storage. Yeah. And our argument is you may as well go to a low-cost, secure storage like Seagate.
One of the other myths that's been around for a few years now is there was obviously SSDs in the beginning, then we brought out NVMEs, and they were all going to cause the demise of hard drives. How would you answer that today?
Well, the myth is that they will eventually replace hard drives, right? But that makes some assumptions which we don't think is true. So first of all, the cost of SSD storage is roughly 6 times that of spinning disk storage, right? Now, that differential does change, it goes up and down because there's a market price for SSDs. Now, when the price is going down, it's not because they're better at making SSDs, it's because there is more stock to sell. So the price is very, very volatile. But nevertheless, on the average, over the last 6 to 8 years, it's been about a factor of 6 times. And also, the assumption is that the customer wants to keep all of his data on the most expensive media. And of course, that's not true. And so computing systems these days are so clever. You get auto-tiering, I mentioned earlier, but what we talk about is a blend of media. Flash, certainly, if you've got IOPS performance-hungry applications, Flash is the way to go, without doubt, right? And it's eaten into our 2.5-inch high-performance SAS drives, for sure, to the point where, Toshiba, I think, have pulled away from it. WD certainly have. We're going to at some point. And then we've got the nearline bulk storage, which is where Google and Azure and everyone else are still playing and still buying, millions a quarter from us. And of course, that's where data resides. Most data is not hot data. We reckon 90% of data is cold data, and we're going to store that on the lowest cost that you can find. And leaving the IOPS stuff, the heavy IOPS stuff, which is SSD flash, of course, free to process the now apps, as it were.
From a Seagate perspective, where are you seeing your biggest growth? Is it CCTV? Is it on Ceph? Is it AI? Where are you as a vendor seeing that growth?
Well, you mentioned CCTV and Ceph and AI. We think AI is the big umbrella under which all those apps will reside at some point. CCTV is certainly a big market for us, one of our biggest consumers of hard drives. And they've been using AI type apps for a long time, facial recognition, this sort of thing, smart data, heat mapping in retail environments. These are all really sort of AI type applications, and that will only increase. Ceph as well, big data as well. We're seeing a lot of AI applications in the scientific research community, which are good Ceph, good Ceph targets, of course. And they're using it not just to more efficiently store data, but to analyze the data, combine data sets in new, novel ways, to get compelling outcomes. So AI for us is the great big thing that's coming still. Right now, we'd probably say that it's a GPU market still, because we're very much in the inference and learning stage of AI development. But eventually, it's got to be a storage business, because if you make a decision based on AI, you have to keep the data that you made it on available for years in the future, or a snapshot of the data, certainly.
Yeah.
And we're going to store that on the flash layer? I don't think so. It's going to be stored on hard drives, and that's our growth market. And the thing is, of course, is that right now the so-called data sphere is 185 zettabytes or thereabouts. We reckon it's going to grow to 400 at least in the next 3 years.
Wow.
And when you think of that 400 zettabytes of data being created, the storage industry's ability to store it is only about 10% of that. So the paradigm is, I've gone to all the expense of creating the data, now I want to get the value out of it and store it. And that's what we grapple with every day.
Wow. And that's where your higher capacity drives are.
Exactly. Because the answer is, well, we'll build more data centers, but we'll consume more power, more stuff. And our argument is, well, storage doesn't need to cost the earth, in two senses of the word, because we're making great strides in high capacity hard drives. And think about what high capacity hard drives actually means, because it takes the same power to spin a 16 terabyte as it does to spin a 32 terabyte. So your power consumption per terabyte halves and will go down further. And then you can also double your density. It takes, if you imagine 32 terabytes compared to 16 terabytes in an array, you've doubled the storage. So terabytes per meter in a data center go down as well. So it's a much more compelling argument to keep on pushing area density and driving up capacity.
Yeah, because one of the, I did I've got an article on this, how big is petabyte storage?
I read it.
Yeah. And 10 years ago, a petabyte of storage would fit in, I think it was 6 racks or 4 racks.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Whereas today, a petabyte of storage would literally sit in 4U. More than nearly almost 2 petabytes if you put 32. If you put 30 terabyte drives in. So it's quite interesting that all these companies are moving there, trying to get the data in the cloud. They don't actually realise that that'll store a petabyte now.
Yeah, and we'd say, as I said, much more of a symbiotic relationship between all the different storage types, and customers should be thinking about, I've got the hot layer, I've got the bulk storage on-prem layer, I back up to the cloud. There is definitely an architecture which to be designed and which optimizes data flow for sure.
Brilliant. Right, Andy, well, thank you very much for coming in, and appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you
very much.
I think that's socially acceptable.
Is Andy right?
Call in now.
Do you want to do a test round?
No. Ready?
Right, ready.
Action.
So one of the options you also provide is a software option that includes auto-tiering.
Yeah.
What other functionality can you provide? I'm sorry.